Okay, stage 2 of getting this PHP code fine-tuned for our own e-card or trading card application. Brent's going to show you how you can download the zip file, install it on your computer, and then your challenge will be to add your own images or your own text to the database and replace these placemark graphics. Okay, Brent, take it away.
All right. So as John said, the challenge will be to set this up locally and then modify the code. You'll have the zip file, but you don't have the server. So in order to do this challenge, based on what type of operating system you have, you need to replicate the server environment. Now, usually you have to be really careful with the server version, the MySQL version, like PHP versions. But luckily, the server we're using is fairly recent versions, and the versions available online are pretty recent. So that should be a non-problem. Else, if you're working with older software or newer software, that can get confusing. So I just want to flag that as a troubleshooting point you'll need to know in your future career. But basically, if you're on Windows, you can just Google search Wamp Server. And Wamp Server is a website that gives you what's called a server stack. It has everything you need for a Windows computer specifically. It has Apache, it has MySQL and PHP all built in to a single exe file. If you download it, usually I would almost assume everyone is on a 64-bit system. If your computer isn't like 10 years old, you're probably 64-bit. Yeah, so download that version, install it, and once it runs, you should actually be able to see that it's working when you run it. You can run it just by typing into WAMP and then run your application after you install it, and it should turn green. If this doesn't turn green, this little icon in your taskbar, your WAMP server is not running. At least one of the items isn't. If it's orange or red, there's a problem, and that might affect things. So if you see that, you need to go into troubleshooting mode, and that's when you can just, shoot an email to John or myself, and we can try to help you. Most of the time, it just turns green and everything's good. Silly things like Skype or, other things that run servers that you might have installed that you don't realize could interfere. And it might be as simple as closing Skype before you launch WAMP or little things like that. Once you install this, and this is very similar for Mac, so that's kind of why I'm going to explain this, and I'll jump over to the Mac side. Once you have this installed, you run a WAMP and that little green icon pops up. You can actually go to localhost, and localhost should be configured where you see something like this, and you also have PHP MyAdmin installed. You'll see it down here, or up in the browser, the address bar, you can do /PHP MyAdmin. And when you do that, if you didn't change the current setup, it should be root with no password. And then you'll wind up inside of here, and you can select the database and you can start working in it. It only looks like this because I didn't expand my window, so don't get scared if it looks like that. You'll see something just like the other stuff on iPage. Now, if you're on, and one thing to mention on this is the directory where you would want to go is you'd want to go into your C drive, and it's normally a folder called WAMP64, www. The www folder is where you put your HTML, your PHP files. That's the root directory of your server. So you go into your C drive, look for something that says WAMP, probably says WAMP64, look for this. And that's where your files should live. Database, to upload that, you go to /PHP MyAdmin on the local host, and you'll have access to everything just like you would on iPage with your file manager, and the database side of things with PHP MyAdmin. Now, for Mac users, it's very similar. I don't have a Mac. I have helped some kids troubleshoot this in the past if they had problems, so I should still be somewhat effective. The big difference I've noticed is sometimes instead of going to localhost, there might be like a port number, like a colon in a port. Now, I think it displays it on the software. So if you look around, you should find a clue of it. And I also challenge you to Google search it before you ask. But if you can't find it, we'll definitely help you fix it. But whenever I help a kid troubleshoot, my secret is I go to Google and I ask it questions, and then I come up with the answers that work. If you can master that, you can master anything, because Google has all the info. So just type in MAMP. Now you'll notice we have WAMP and MAMP. The first letter in the acronyms is for the operating system. And if you're a Linux user, you want to look up LAMP. So this is Mac, Apache, MySQL, PHP. You'll see it's here. Now mine, the default shows Windows because I'm on a Windows computer, but yours will probably say Mac. And if not, you can just go to downloads and choose, MAMP for Mac. I'll just go into the home page. I'm in the wrong spot, but this is where I can go to downloads and I can specify, Mac OS or, whichever. And basically it's the same thing. On Mac, you're going to get a little pop-up window. So just to kind of give you an expectation of something being slightly different, let me go over to images and see if I can find something to show you guys. So basically on Mac, you have a pop-up window like this. It's not down in the taskbar like on Windows. It's not going to be down here. And it's very similar to what you would see. Like I can go here and left click or right click this and get different settings. Your settings are basically within here. You see PHP, I have PHP. If I look around Apache, I have Apache. So it's not that it's necessarily different features, but it's just laid out differently. So don't let that intimidate you. Just kind of look around and you'll get a feel of it. The last thing to mention with MAMP, MAMP is a little more aggressive about trying to get you to pay money for things you're not going to need at the level you're at. So when you install it, make sure you're using the free version, not like the pro trial or pro version. You don't need to spend $1 on this. The free version is perfectly fine. The pro version just lets you automate certain tasks or do advanced things. If you're launching this on the web and using your computer as a server for some other project at some point, that might be worth it looking into. But for this, don't get tricked into spending money. So that's the challenge. Those are the tools you need. How you would access phpMyAdmin, how you access localhost, where you put your files. Mac users, your I guess www folder may be somewhere different. I know the Apple file directories are different, but if you use I think the Finder and search for www, or basically just try to find that, or even just MAMP, where is www folder? And this should probably C MAMP. Okay, let's put Mac OS MAMP, or is www folder. Applications, click on preferences, go to the Apache tab. So it sounds like from that pop-up window, you go to Apache and you can find the default folder, and that will give you the path. But yeah, just do some searches like this and you'll get all the answers you need. And again, we're here for support.
Great. So before we adjourn this section, Brent, can you show the file structure that we should set up in that www folder?
Sure. Let me actually start by pulling up, let's see, iPage. Okay, so I can actually show you guys that without even going to the www folder. Mm-hmm. If we go to the iPage file manager where we already have the app running,
yep,
we want to replicate what we see in here. So inside of the www folder, you'd want to create some sort of folder that would make sense to you, like artist trading cards or somewhere where all your files can live. Mm-hmm. The logic of this is, while this might be your first time using a server on your computer, you're probably going to build another project, and having it in a subfolder will just make you a lot happier when you get to that point. Then with that, so that's not so necessarily a function, but just file management for yourself, for sanity. Within there, we have an image folder, and then we have our files on the outside of that image folder. So let me kind of guide you through this if I was doing it. If I go into www, I create new folder, and this would be something to the effect of artist cards, artist trading cards. For the sake of simplicity, I'm just going to replicate what we see exactly. in here, I make a new folder and call this images. And essentially these files I would download and put in here. So from your zip folder, you'll see them. Actually, from the zip folder, you can probably just unzip it and drag the folder into www once we send this to you. But if you did have to set up from scratch, HTML, CSS, PHP could live here, and your images would go inside of here. Ultimately, as we develop this a little further, we may break out like a CSS folder, a JS folder for JavaScript. We might get a little more clever with how we organize things as we kind of see the direction it goes. But for now, I think let's keep it simple and just www, make your subfolder, your images folder, and drop your files where they go.
Perfect. Perfect, Brent. Okay. Thank you, Brent. I'm going to stop the recording now.